up, good morning, good afternoon, I'm not really sure. It's beautiful out in New England. It's 60 right now. Got the windows open, fucking sunroof open, good to go. Going down to the shop, take apart the motor, maybe mess around with some of the dash delete. Gonna have the doors open now over there too, so it's gonna be pretty fucking cool. I don't know, let's see what we get into. Alright, so I'm not sure if I went over any details on this motor. I got this motor from my brother-in-law Dan. He had got the motor for his STI when it was right around, I think this motor that he got had like 40,000, probably 60,000 miles on it. He put another, I don't know, 5 to 10 on it. He took it out because it was smoking. He was running right around 385 at the wheels from his STI. He had a decent sized turbo and everything else that kind of went along with it for a stock motor. I'm imagining it was smoking because of cracked ringlands or something like that. I'm going to drop the oil in this, see what the oil looks like. Hopefully there's no bearing, anything in it. There's no sign of spun bearing, but you never know. It's a Subaru, so fuck it. But yeah, drop the oil, check out a few other things, and we'll see what it's starting to look like. Pretty dark. I don't know the last time she was changed, but she looks pretty clean. I haven't seen any specks or anything. I'll get the flashlight just to make sure. Get the oil that came out of it. I don't know if you can see any of that. I think it's just a mix between moisture that was in it. You can see something. Moisture, fuel, maybe bearings. I should just do a whole fucking rebuild on it. I don't know. Alright, I got the 14 bolts out that hold the oil pan in. Let's see if I can pop this thing loose and get the dipstick tube out. So when taking things apart, I always try to bag things. Like these are the bolts for the oil pan. And I'm going to keep these bolts separate for the pickup and also the tray. I don't know what the fuck it's called. Try to get a better idea what's going on inside this motor. I call it a windage tray for the oil. I don't remember. I'll look into this in a little bit. Just gotta make sure you don't drop any of the nuts into the motor, or the bolts, rather. Might be taking everything apart, but I don't want to be fishing for stuff and then finding stuff that I forgot. I'll probably end up going full Killer Bee with the oil pickup, the windage tray. I would love to do a pan also. Their parts really are the shit. Probably going to end up doing a remote mounted oil filter. I found a kit at work for only 30 bucks. I can make lines, you know, Gates hydraulic lines at work to plumb it. So I'll be able to put the oil filter somewhere in the engine bay or wheel well toward the front, something like that, that's still protected. But by doing that, I won't have to drop the skid plate every time I need to do an oil change or service. So that's the main reason for that. Alright, let's get a closer look at the crank and rods. Everything looks pretty clean. Oh, that might be some issue right there. I won't know until I split the case. Maybe start pulling the valve covers off and timing stuff will really actually make it bare bones. Nothing else going on. Alright, so we're just going to get right into it. I'm going to start tearing it down. Gotta take the crank pulley off, which is held in with a 22 mil head bolt. Let's see. Take the plastic covers off. All three of them. It's 3 pieces. Boom, boom, boom. Beyond that, we start taking apart the timing components, the timing belt, the tensioner, the pulleys, all that fun stuff. So let's see what's going on. So when Dan and I were going through this motor originally, before we put it into his STI, we did a Gates racing timing belt kit. And from what I've gathered after the fact, they're not the way to go. The blue on the belt collects on the pulleys. As you can see, that's quite a bit. It's on all the pulleys. Over time, that stuff starts to chunk up. You can see that one's starting to get kind of thick. It's just, I don't know, you don't want anything that can start chunking up on your pulleys. It can cause the belts to be thrown off just a little bit, and it, I imagine, adds more stress to the pulleys, the tensioner, everything. Just because it builds up, it's not as it should be. Not really going to recommend going with the Gates time belts anymore. I'll go with something else. Maybe just a factory OE one, because it's a race car. Probably going to be going through motors, so probably back to OE just for an OE refresh on the timing at least. Now that we got the timing cover off, I'm going to start just by took the spark plugs off from the passenger side, coil pack spark plugs off. Going to flip it around, do the other side. Then I'll get the motor to top dead center best I can before I start actually taking the belt and the pulleys off. I got the motor to top dead center, spark plugs out, so it wasn't building any compression while I was spinning it. Everything spins freely, nice and smooth, no binding, nothing like that. So right now I'm going to start taking off the timing pulleys. And I'm going to take off the cam pulleys. And I'm probably digging the valve covers. Probably end up just taking everything down to the bare block, taking the heads off. Get a good look at the pistons, at the valves, all that fun stuff, just so I know what I'm getting myself into for the refresh / rebuild. To get to all the camshaft bolts, you have to take off this plate right here that's mounted right here. It's held on with 3 bolts that have an 8mm head. So pop those off, and then you'll be able to get to the Allen head bolt, which keeps them in place. That is a 10mm Allen head bolt. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the belt on with tension. I'm going to crack these loose because this is usually an issue. Sometimes they come off, sometimes they don't. If they don't, you have to drill them out to relieve the tension that the bolts cause from stretching the threads. I don't really know. Anyways, I've had to drill them off before it sucks, so hopefully these just zip right off with the zipper tool. Not what I was hoping for. We were able to get all the Allen head bolts loosened by putting a breaker bar on the crank to hold it in place with the bar going against the engine stand. And then I got my breaker bar with the other end of my jack handle on it for extra torque, so I was able to undo everything. At first I was getting kind of worried, but I skipped this one. I went to all the other three. Those broke free, so I went back to the first one again and I was able to actually get it to break free. So now I'm going to undo a couple of the pulleys, take the belt off, and then take the start taking the heads off. We got the cam gears off. I'm going to take these side plastics off, and then we can take off the valve covers after we tilt the motor sideways and do one at a time. Take the cams out, pop the heads, like I keep saying. But yeah, you gotta be careful. On this one, I don't know if I started to round it or if it was already had a little bit of slop from last time, but the Allen bit itself got stuck in it, so I had to try dropping it a few times, and I just brought it up to the vise and I reversed, the rotation to break it free because it's kind of jammed in there. But what I'm probably going to end up doing, instead of reusing these, Turning Concepts has some bolts. They're actually legit bolts, not the Allen head, but hex head bolts, to replace and fix that issue, because sometimes they get rounded out and then you got to drill them. It's a mess, but I'll just add that to the list. Guys, this is looking pretty clean. I don't see any noticeable scoring or anything like that. To take the heads off, you have to take the camshafts out first. So I gotta undo these right here, those 12 bolts, and I have to not get them mixed up. It's very important that I do not get everything mixed up. This was the cylinder right here that the spark plug, I don't remember if I showed you guys that. Spark plugs one is not like the other. This one looks like it never fired whatsoever. The other three look well used. The one that did not fire came from this one, and that valve looks grosser than the others. So I imagine that was just dumping fuel right in. Wasn't burning off whatsoever for some reason. I don't know if it was a coil pack issue or what. But yeah, a spark plug. It's brand new. I'll have to look at it a little bit closer, see if there's a crack or something. Coil pack looked fine, but you never know with those, so yeah. Cam gears off, got the cams off. I have everything in order over here because you can't really mess it up. Well, you could mess those up, but you want to make sure you have the right ones with the right things, obviously. They're kind of made for each other, so got those out. Now, there are 6 head bolts. You can actually see the green paint or marker on each one. Got to break those free, and then we can check out the pistons and valves. As you can see, got the head off. Got that bad boy over here. Check out the valve in a second. I mean, fucking sidewalls look fine. I guess we'll take the other head off and then do a few rotations on. Both heads look pretty good. The valves look fine. I looked at the other head. That one looked just as good. So I imagine it might have been like a coil pack issue or maybe an injector issue. I'm not really sure. But just in that wasn't firing. See really good cross hatching. I don't see any real grooves in it. This is all just the crap from the head gasket. Oh, that one looks fine too. So it's a really good crosshatch. On both. On all of them. I don't really see any wear or anything. I don't know. Must be a cracked ring land on the piston, causing it to smoke. Or maybe the ring lands or the piston rings are lined up. I don't know. Won't know until we tear them apart. But this is as far as I'm going with the breakdown. I'll be splitting the block probably at home. I'm bringing the heads and the block and probably the engine stand back to my place so I can work on it in my living room. But be I don't know, hot tanking this stuff. I'll be cleaning it up somehow. Figure that out later. But I was going to get into the dash on this thing. As you can see, I took it out last video. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I'll be digging around with that maybe tomorrow. I don't know if I have anything going on. But yeah, transporting the block back home. Doing a little bit of research on what I need to, build and refresh. But yeah, get to that when we need to. But if you're still watching, thanks for watching. Check back for more. Hopefully we'll have a mini engine build going on. I've never split a case in half before. This is as far as I've gone. I've only done head gaskets in the past, so it'll be a learning experience. Hopefully you'll be along for the ride. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, come back for more. Thanks. Bye. Video after the video. All loaded up, ready to go home. Thanks again for watching.